say digital transformation is not just what the customer sees. Actually, it is what the customer don't see.
So products may be easy to copy, but it is the experience which is
Correct.
not easy to copy.
Absolutely.
And that's what I always felt, that companies, D2C especially, who have a lot of loyalty of customers, they make experience very happy. Today it is my privilege to welcome Ramesh, who is the CTO of Aditya Birla Capital and a very, very exciting business leader of India. Ramesh, welcome.
Thank you, Manoj. It's just an absolute honor and privilege to be with you here.
No, delighted to be with you. You built such a fantastic business and a great network for Aditya Birla Capital. And I feel that today's Planview podcast will bring out exciting details of how you have done it, what do you feel like today after doing so much, and what's the plan for next few years.
Absolutely. And I think it's been a good 3-year ride for me in Aditya Birla Capital. We have achieved significant milestones. Of course, work doesn't stop. We will continue to do much more in the benefit of the customers. And I'm very happy to be here and share with you.
Thank you, Ramesh. So tell me, because I've had a 20-year background of telecom, how is telecom scaling up? I scaled the company Airtel to now it's getting close to 500 million customers in 20 countries. And you scaled up businesses before Aditya Birla Capital and now in Aditya Birla Capital to huge numbers. How do you think these two businesses are different in terms of strategy and execution?
Great question. Might be the only business I've not done is telco. I've done financial services, NBFC, e-commerce, logistics, consulting. I think what, especially in India, right? I think we are really solving population level problem in financial services, right? With the advent of UPI and many other enhancements which has happened in the country. It is quite important for us to be also on track to do that. And I think for us, the fundamental change is how do we move on from a distributor model to a direct-to-consumer model. And in direct-to-consumer model, you have to scale. Right?
Yes.
Because the consumer comes to us directly, picks up a product, picks up a service. There is no middleman to do it. And that's what we have spent a significant amount of time in the last 3 years. How do we take Aditya Birla Capital to a direct-to-consumer model? We're doing it through our ABCD super app, which is really a one-stop shop for the customers to come in and bring in any financial products. And the key is the fulfillment of the product still happens in the respective businesses, right? Yeah. Because the product origination happens there. But whereas purely from a distribution standpoint, the customer is able to buy. I think the difference, I would say, is telco being there for quite some time. It is real time because the call has to go through, it is very instant. I still feel the payment business is very instant, but other business still has got a bit of time lag. So I would still feel telcos are far more complex than, to scale up than other businesses. But same thing with e-commerce, right? When I was at Singapore Post, the transaction has to go through.
Yeah.
Right? Because the customer chooses a product, the payment comes only at the last moment. I think the gap is getting closed, in terms of how a telco operates versus any financial services operate. But it's just fascinating time to implement solutions in this area.
Absolutely right. I think it's very exciting, especially with UPI being 40% of global digital transactions. I feel so proud that villagers now are using UPI, are using GPay, are using so many payment methods which are digital. Tell me, how do you, in a cutthroat competition, because your industry is quite competitive, how do you differentiate your strategy? It's so difficult to differentiate a digital strategy which you lead.
Right.
Especially with a omni-channel experience, because I think you are talking about B2B as well as B2C.
Yes.
And you have multiple businesses. So that should be tough.
Yeah. So I think, I will answer this in two parts. I think the first one is to really ensure that everything we do is for the customer. So one of the things in our omni-channel strategy is how do we ensure the customer comes for any product, comes through any channel, we give him or her the same experience. I think that is critical. And when we do that, the key way in which how technology helped is to standardize a lot of things. Might be we did not centralize a lot of things. We still allowed each of the business to do certain things in their way, but the solution set what we picked up, the way in which it gets implemented, the time scale in which it gets implemented is the same. So what happens is suddenly after that initial, once you cross the front end, everything looks the same or it's exactly the same. So our ability to change something, our ability to recover from something is extremely fast. That I think is a big differentiator for us, because if you've centralized everything, then it becomes much more complex.
Yeah.
Right. So that is number one. Second thing, what we also did is simplify in terms of processes. Because a typical challenges in financial services, what I've seen is it's a very inward-looking organization.
Yeah.
Right? We do a lot of things for the corporate functions. I think that is something which we moved away from. We said we will do what is required for finance or credit for tech itself. But how do we really ensure that every process is designed so that the customer is benefited? I always say digital transformation is not just what the customer sees. Actually, it is what the customer don't see.
Yeah.
I think we spend a lot of time to ensure that with these two combinations, I think we have been able to make the differentiation in terms of the service. Of course, the product offering is sometimes a function of market. And in some of our companies, we have done products, but I always feel products are easy to copy.
Yes.
Right? Because it is pretty much the same. Because you also can't create a very different version which the customer does not understand. So how do we differentiate in an implementation? In delivery, in service is where we focus on.
Yeah. So products may be easy to copy, but it is the experience which is
Correct.
not easy to copy.
Absolutely.
And that's what I always felt, that companies, D2C especially, who have a lot of loyalty of customers, they make experience very happy. They experience very easy. So is this experience, making experience easy, coming from your team's creativity or team's innovation, or is it really disciplined execution which you follow? What does it come from?
I would say all three, right? In fact, we say that, our job is to make finance as simple as ABCD, which is the ABCD digital company. A few steps we took forward in this. First is on the innovation front, we run a very structured innovation program. Right? Because sometimes people feel that innovation means that anyone can do everything.
Yeah.
I think we took a different approach. We have a very structured program where we get the problem statements from our staff, our customers, go through a series of startups who can solve the problem and then go and solve the problem. Right? That has really helped us. That's number one. Second, I think in execution, the discipline of tracking what we do. Right? 90 days, implement a project without any challenges. Now, that whole mentality of how do we do it in 90 days, right? So that means we need something in which you can monitor it on a daily basis. And that's why I think, solutions like Planview really came in handy for us, because at any point in time, we know what is happening. And then if there is need to be a course correction, we go and do it. I think it's really execution which we spend enormous amount of effort, because the project, when we start, it is adequately funded. The strategy is fairly clear. But what people don't have the abilities to react when anything changes.
Yeah.
I think that is something I think the team has done very well. We are very collaborative, right? It is not that technology has to say something, business has to say something. In fact, my role itself is divided. The digital experience is actually run by the business. The digital engineering is run by technology. So we are kind of joined at the hip at every stage. Same thing with data. Data engineering is run by technology. Data analytics is run by the business. So what we did is, so we don't have that gap of thinking versus execution, and that has helped us a lot significantly in delivering projects on time.
That means you are in all your innovations, you are not only well structured, but you are agile.
Yes.
You are still flexible.
Yes.
And follow a clear discipline.
Correct.
Tell me, for a multiple business situation, because you have multiple businesses which you serve, how do you set priorities? Because every business has a different priority. Every business has exigencies, some emergencies, and every business has maybe a resource constraint.
Right.
So how do you balance all this?
So I think when I always used to say, might be when I came in, I very clearly told what I am not responsible for, because I think that's very important to establish. Then what we did, anything which is related to the fulfillment of the product, creation of the product, it is done at the business level. Because regulation, right? Regulation could change
Yeah.
something. At that time, it is very difficult to look at a central structure and say, hey, do my regulation for me, right? So product development, product fulfillment, how finance runs, everything is done in the respective businesses. Now, any time where there is more than one product involved, that's where really the architecture what we have created come. Because if it is going to be a single product, single interaction, there is no point in bringing the customer all over our company. He comes, he buys his life insurance, and then he moves back, right? Now, but then now he wants to get a loan. Now, that's how what we have done. If there is a moment there is more than one product comes in, I think the central infrastructure what we have built comes into play, right? And there the prioritization happens is very simple, because both the CEOs would have agreed that, yes, this is a cross-sell or an upsell which we want to do to the customer, right? And how do we help them to do so that they continue to focus on their product, but we have a team which will manage the combination of products to be sold. That's why if you see in our ABCD app, which is a distributor app, everything culminates there, right? A customer comes, he can choose whatever he wants. We give him a great experience. We said we will do it a very simple way, in a very faster way, but the pipes are all connected to each of the business to do the fulfillment. So it becomes quite transparent to the business.
And one of the goals you have is a higher wallet share of the same customer.
Absolutely.
Which is you'll prefer to sell all the products
Absolutely.
to each customer.
Absolutely. And it's great, right? Because, and considering the fact that we don't do deposits, right? It is all other products, life insurance, health insurance, you want a housing loan.
Yeah.
In a way, I feel it is all kind of related. And then there is no pressure on the consumer. I always feel as a customer that I need to put money in this company to get services you want, right? Banks kind of operate slightly differently.
Yeah, they want
right?
deposits.
Correct. And you have a hook product, right? Without a hook product, to do this is not very easy, right? So as you rightly said, experience will what the customer will come for. Because if you don't give the experience, because they will go to the bank, right? Because banks pretty much know everything about you. They will give everything to you. So that I think is extremely critical. And other thing, what we also want to do is there an opportunity to do a much larger ecosystem, right? Now you start off with financial services. Can we do something more? Right? And how do we even service our whole ABG ecosystem? So I think those are all the things which will come up in years to come, right? Because as an organization, we also have to increase our product set, right? We can't just keep saying that I'm going to do a cross-sell and I'm done, right? How do we increase the product set? How do we increase our service sets?
Absolutely.
So those things becomes very critical.
So Ramesh, the other great opportunity of India is scale, which very frankly, except China, no other country can give. UP as an example, so many others are example. You are scaling up your systems tremendously, and hence business is also growing, profitability is improving, everything is happening. So I just wanted to check with you, how do you handle the scale complexity? How do you manage architectural complexity? That architecture has to scale up. Because if the architecture is not right, then the scale won't happen. And cultural integration of various levels of people, various businesses, etc., etc. And of course, the delivery risk has to be mitigated, because otherwise delivery won't happen in time or at the right cost.
Yes.
So how do you manage the scale then?
I think, what we did as I think this is where I think strategy comes into play, right? The technology strategy, for, how do I say, for my own spirit, I named it as Pilani. Okay, then I studied there, and in the Birla Empire, there cannot be a better word than Pilani, right? So the first one is platform.
Yeah.
Right? How do we build platforms? I see sometimes monolithics are actually not bad, right? Because there is a view in the industry saying that if you build a monolithic, it is not good. But there are areas where you might want to see the monolithic actually performs extremely well, because it is an integrated solution with less variation, right? So we took that also into consideration, but built platforms wherever possible, right? So every design we do go through a platform. Next is what I would call as, the whole digital experience, right? Which is where the customer interacts with you. We want to keep as much as possible simplified and the same, right? That means we don't want to give a very different journey when a customer buys a health insurance or a life insurance or a loan product. The regulations will be always there, right? How do we make that thing? I think the key thing for is what I would call as living, right? Which consists of architecture, project/program management, and how do we really look forward 3 years or 5 years down the line and build a solution? We spent quite a bit of time on that, right? That's one reason why we got again, Planview, we have bought an architecture tool where the blueprint is actually defined for 5 years with the ability to change once in 3 months. So every quarter we do a review, and then if anything needs to be adjusted,
So you
we
refresh.
do adjust, at least on paper, because the execution cycle itself will take some time, right? So that is something which we went to do. See, in scaling, what we found out is, scale, in my view, it's kind of a step function, right? So from you start out with 1 to 10 million, you do a scale, then you kind of be there for some time. So the next scaling becomes very difficult.
Yeah.
Okay. So for that, what we have done is, as much as possible, we first ensured that each of the businesses by themselves scale, right, on a single product. Then we have built a central, architecture interface, which is very simple API management, nothing very complicated on that, but along with rules, along with the ability to change, which helps us to do that. And really, cloud here comes very handy, right? Because the infrastructure scaling used to be the most difficult thing in olden days, right? Because you have to still procure servers, put everything down. Now that problem is solved very clearly. Now, of course, the cost comes along with it, needs to be looked at, right? So that which we have seen in some cases, when you scale, the cost also scales.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the immediate thing is, hey, your technology is not giving me scale benefits.
Economies.
Right? Sometimes it does not, right? So, but that will always tell them, what we need to do is this 10 to 12 million, we are going to kind of suffer, but this 12 to 20, you will see scale, right? So I think that's how I look at scale as. Scale is not just, you keep on doing and then you get benefits, because there will be a point in time where you'll have to spend disproportionately more.
Yeah.
I think that's something which we really look at it. And the other thing which we really ensure is that our basic systems and infrastructure, we upgrade as quickly as possible. We avoid legacy, which is, I think, is a fairly large cost which kicks in, right? So there, what we have done is we have also simplified our tech architecture, tech components. We don't tend to buy every single thing which is available in the market, because sometimes that discussion is a bit of a push and pull between me and the businesses. They say, this is something new I want to buy. No, if you buy it, then you need to buy corresponding infrastructure, corresponding set of people, corresponding set of process. See, there we take the decision to say, to kind of scale, let's scale with this. Let's see how it is. If it is so really good, then we will change everything in the next thing. And my view is no need to change everything every year. Take a 3-year review, unless something which is so, AI now is, I think, is something which is rocking some of our plans, right? Because we have to integrate very quickly. That's how I would see. And the other challenge which we see is when we go to tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 cities, how does it cost going to play a role?
Yeah.
Because the solution, what sometimes we are building for tier 1, tier 2 cities, could be very expensive for tier 4, tier 5.
Is not viable.
Correct. So that is something which you're doing. So one of the things which we are really looking at, voice. Can voice be a game changer for us? Right? That means you don't need a smartphone.
Yeah.
Right? I can just give a feature phone, or people just do on a very simple thing, I want to transact. So those are the experiments which we keep doing. And I think that a lot of people are doing in the country. I don't think we are the only one. But we'll see how those technologies will come to a scale. And definitely AI. I think is something which we are looking at very closely. My view is it might not be cheap, but it could be very fast.
Now that's very excellent approach. Very good approach. Because, I've seen in my life that as you scale, the complexity comes in very fast. Many people can't appreciate that because they feel that scale leads to ease of.
Yes.
Whereas I've seen not only in Airtel, but in other companies I work with, Lenskart, FirstCry, Zomato, Blinkit, and many others, that scale leads to complexity. So one, you have to decomplex. And the second expectation, which is also very, very real, is that at scale, the customer and all other stakeholders want you to be much more agile. In a fast-changing market, how does the technology or the various technologies, strategies stay agile? How do you use connected systems, APIs, and real-time dashboards to resolve responsive decision-making? Because very frankly, each business manager will tell you that I don't want any delay. I want to decide instantly. So please be agile, whether my scale is 100 or 200 or 1,000, doesn't matter. I want to decide real time because I can't lose business.
Right. So I think, one thing what I found in the last 5 years, right? Many of the core technologies have stabilized.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like, 10, 15 years back when cloud came in, every day there used to be something which comes in, and we did not have enough knowledge. And I think what is the other beauty in India is now the end user knowledge and a lot of these things have gone up significantly. And I always joke, right, if I take my entire team and if I pull 100 people out, I can actually start a company, right? Because you've got all skill sets. Yes, we are dependent on partners, but the ability of the organization itself is very high.
Yeah.
See, one key thing what we have done in this is to reduce the knowledge gap between product and technology. That's what startups do extremely well, where I found legacy organizations struggle, right? Because you've got a product team which says that this is the product and technology team takes it and tries to deliver. See, we have closed that gap, right? To the extent any product guy should be able to do technology, any technology
They're fully
guy
bonded.
fully bonded. And not just at the knowledge level, but at the experience level, understanding consumer.
But not many legacy companies have
Companies don't do.
understood
I mean,
this.
I've
They haven't
15
understood this
correct.
magic.
15 years back, I have struggled, right? I mean, in banks, it's like because the product team will come up with something, and they don't understand the nitty-gritty of how something is delivered. But that I think is very key for any organization which is making the transformation. I always check the product versus tech gap. Can the product guy do tech? Can the tech guy?
But otherwise, the experience will never come.
And then there becomes very reasonable. Then what happens is the negotiation is because everything has to be negotiated. Okay, the negotiation is much more reasonable, where people say, hey, let's keep these 4 or 5 product feature to a later date, right? But let's get this tech implementation done well. And same thing when tech comes and says, look, everything is going on fine. I need to really build a monitoring tool, right? See, tech is most neglected in traditional organizations, right? Because they will saying, because business understands what we deliver for them. But what technology delivers for technology is understood like tools. So we have a complete tool roadmap saying that for each of these, let it be project management, let it be architecture, monitoring, how dashboards related to technology will be done. There is a complete tool set, which I said nothing would be done manually. We are going there. I think a phase 1 has been done. A phase 2 will give a lot of, those kind of input. And what we also did for data, the data engineering solution, for all companies, we picked up the same solution. Okay. But the analytics, the business have got whatever they want to use. So that's why I'm saying, the whole way it structurally, how we have solved the problem is very good. Because if I say that this is the analytics tool we have to use, it's very tough. Because as technology team, we are also slightly far away from that. The
So
engineering side,
you have given them flexibility
Absolutely.
within guardrails.
within guardrails.
Within guardrails.
Within guardrails.
So that you have the boundary conditions clearly set out.
Absolutely.
But still within that, the business has flexibility.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Because they are very, because for them, because it's also, the tool sets also, unfortunately, if you know one tool set, there is no guarantee you can know the next tool set. So each set of people in an industry, they are comfortable with certain tool set. That we have given. But my view is at the engineering layer, where I bring data together, why do you need so much of variance? And we are able to procure better, negotiate pricing better, and that the CEOs appreciate, right? Because you are giving them something at a very good price, where on their own they might not be even able to afford it. Because our business are at different cost point, different revenue points.
So coming back to this point, last point which you mentioned about CEOs. Now, working with multiple CEOs is not easy. And these multiple CEOs have multiple expectations, especially operational efficiency, cost efficiency, in addition to scale, etc. So how do you achieve the operational efficiency targets and cost targets? Because
I think
CEOs are very sensitive to that.
Correct. But I think, might be I'm very lucky because all our CEOs understand technology very well. Because that I think is extremely crucial, right? And I think cost points, it is understood very well, right? So what I have found out, if you deliver a project on time, I think we can avoid a lot of unnecessary discussion. I think where CTOs or CIOs get into trouble is when the project don't get delivered on time. Sometimes I feel might be we would have slightly overspent, but we never missed deadline. So what happens is on that day, it is predictable and you have, right? And people start using it and then bring in revenues, right? So they know that might be it was slightly expensive, but it is delivered on time. That I think has really helped us. And I think I would very clearly say in the last 3 years, we have had maybe 1 or 2 projects where we would have missed delivery by 15, 20 days, right? We never missed delivery. That gives a lot of confidence to the CEO and the technology team because they are able to do it on time. And then they know that there is absolutely no lag for them to bring in revenues, right? Because the solution isn't right in front. That has really helped us.
That's very prudent, because that means time is a much bigger issue.
Yes.
Because time leads to revenues rather than cost.
Yes.
Because revenue is much more important. If revenue comes, cost can be covered. Yeah.
That is one. And second, I think sometimes I feel, working in a multi-regulatory framework helps us, right? So for any solution, we take the most stringent, what the view of the regulator, and implement the same solution for everyone. So the questions never get asked, right? Because otherwise what happens is every time people go try to find how to do certain things, that we have stopped. And third thing is our ability to take one solution deployed in one company to do another. I think we are extremely good at it now. Because the whole structure, even how technology is managed in terms of reporting relationship, in terms of our monthly meetings, every CTO knows what's going on in all other company. So I think we have not also, that is the time on implementation, but I think for us to time to come to a solution is very fast.
Right.
Because we don't reinvent the wheel at all. Because there is no need. And I think that is helped by stabilization of technology. I think that I feel is an advantage we have used very well. And I can see in my previous jobs 10 years back, I have struggled. Because we never understood
very
a lot of
pragmatic
things.
approach. I think this approach is a very pragmatic, practical approach to satisfy business. Tell me, the other pressure which I've seen on CTOs and business guys is this growing regulations, growing compliances, which definitely put a speed limit to your speed, to your innovation, to many other ideas which you may have, your team may have, or business team may have. So how do you balance between these two?
No, I think it's a great question, right? But I always tell my team, look at regulation as product features. So don't look at as regulation, because as we are trying to give a particular product or a service to the consumer, the larger government has an intention or a view that the entire society needs to be protected, right? Because most of regulations stem from the right. It is good for the the greater system. I think where the real challenge I find sometimes is the regulatory project. You have a very, very tight time deadline. Not the regulation itself is an issue, but the time frame in which you need to implement a regulation is sometimes very challenging. So there you don't have a choice, right? You have to drop what you're doing and doing it. But then again, what we have seen is that get the solutioning right. Right. First is in getting the interpretation right. So we go to our head of compliance, regulation. All of them are involved, so that we know what the regulation actually means.
So that you get it right.
Get it right, and also compare among your industry, right? Because there is always a slight difference in which some of these things are interpreted.
Yeah, it's
right?
gray. Sometimes
It's
gray.
And my view is go with the flow.
Yeah.
Right? Don't create a separate instance on your own interpretation. That is number one. Second, we'll have to do it. I think that culture has really come in. If it is regulatory, we need to get it done. So one of the things what we have also done is that when we implement, we also do a very good, I mean, for lack of word, I would call a reconciliation kind of system to see whether what you've implemented regulatorily is right or wrong. I think that is where a lot of times people have, in my view, have made a mistake, because you feel you're compliant, regulator comes, audits you, and they say you're not compliant. So what we have done is we have put in a mechanism where we don't get into the trap. If you have implemented, then there are a lot of things which it could be a report, very simple reporting, which gets generated on a daily basis to see whether I'm off compliance. And then I go very quickly, the team goes and fixes it. So that, I think the intention is very clearly shown. The speed is very clearly shown, but we'll have to balance it. I really don't think there is any other choice. And innovation, I'm saying, since ours is a very structured program, we ensure that whatever we do as a solution gets implemented for all, and we keep on doing this, jugglery. I mean, I don't think there is any way, but I am saying, if you start looking as a product feature for greater good is what the regulator says.
Much better way.
I think it's a much better way of
rather than forcing yourself.
Yeah.
You're not forcing, you're doing the right thing.
Correct. And that's why sometimes I feel the fintechs struggle, right? Because you have given me something which has got a lot of loopholes. Right, frauds could happen. Right, you do a mis-selling. Most the critical part, but it's no joy, right? Because and I always say, since I've run e-commerce company, you can get away with murder, right? I mean, we have had an incident where we had a data breach, and I don't want to name who he said, no problem, just send a mail to the consumer saying that here's a $50 voucher, you buy it, you get it. You can't do in financial services, but I think that differentiation we have to make. And I feel the customer like it.
Yes.
Because we can't run like an e-commerce company, right? We can
Yes.
scale up like an e-commerce company. We can do things fast. But e-commerce is just only one
The
transaction.
character is very different.
Correct. Because the consumer is with me for his lifetime, right? So I think that differentiation, once we give it, do it. But we do learn from other industries in terms of how to do it fast, how to
Yeah.
balance it. And I think the whole transparency, what we bring in, helps us.
You have led such major shifts in the last 3 years. What new technologies, especially AI, machine learning, so many others, if you're thinking of the next transformation, if you think of next 5 years, what kind of transformation you're thinking of?
See, I think there's no doubt AI is going to be in every part of our life, right? So I keep telling my team, just including myself, let's see how AI will affect our personal life. Because every technology first came to corporate, then we took to our home. I think this is one technology I honestly feel we should do the other way around.
Mm.
If you're not comfortable using at home, you're never going to be comfortable using at office.
Mm.
Because today, when the whole question is, if there is a problem, who's going to take, who's going to be liable for it? Because the laws have not changed, right? It's going to take some time for the laws to change. So definitely an agentic AI, and we have, I mean, I won't even say pilot. We are almost production ready in some of the things. It is fascinating. And to the extent, I'm saying that, hey, we need to redefine efficiency itself, because it is not going to be lesser cost, but it is going to be unbelievably lesser time, right? What would take 6 months, maybe you'll do it in 5 minutes. Now, my question is, what do you do with the remaining time? That I think is something which we have to come to terms with. Second is voice, as I mentioned before. I think voice as a technology is going to go through the roof. And in India, that is what is going to make a lot of people's life extremely easy. And that's why we would be able to penetrate, right? See, because today the challenge is, even if you say UPI, it's still for the first 200, 250 million people, right? There's a billion people
Yeah.
outside of this. Now, how do we bring them in, right? We need to find
Yeah.
technology to.
And that's a big challenge you have. You have technologies in your hand, but you need to go so deep in the market, especially rural markets.
Absolutely.
There are another 700 million, 800 million people who are waiting for you.
Yes. Yeah. So I think AI, agentic or non-agentic, voice, I think as a technology, but I think we also think cloud as a technology will make some of the things simplified, because unfortunately, in my view, cloud has not lived it to its promise of reducing cost.
Mm.
I think that will become something different. And I think the last point, what I would see is, now we are also looking at whether there will be a new way of system development, with all these things put together, right? Because we can develop something very differently. So we will keep a watch on that to see how it is being done, and then see, change our plans based on that, in terms of how do we achieve an outcome.
Lastly, Ramesh, I wanted to check with you because a lot of business leaders and technology guys would like to have a very high degree of technology blend into business, in the future strategy of business. How does this alignment happen very seamlessly? What is your tip? What is your advice to
No,
them?
I think, I think one thing which is very beautiful is, as consumers, we understand a lot of technology, right? I mean, I used to always joke, once my father, he called me and he said, can you help me how this OTP works? Because he was becoming 85, 86. And he said, this is very complicated for me. Then I explained to him. Then he said, no, I'll call the branch manager every time to do it, because I don't need to understand that complexity. But I think the new generation cannot afford it. People have to understand the details. I think people have to understand why certain thing fails, because it's very easy to say, hey, this thing has failed,
Yeah.
right? So I think resiliency is important in terms of thinking, resiliency in terms of the solution itself. That's one thing which we tell the business managers, to really ensure, and for the technology people to understand consumer more, and that I think fintechs do fascinating job, right? The traditional companies they think that they know the customer, but they don't know, right? And I think we have put in a lot of effort to ensure people in tech understand what is a customer need, why that needs to be served. I think the modern day individuals are, people who are 25 to 30, they understand all those things. I think more people like me who are in the 50s struggle to, still, we still want to do it. We are trying to do it. So that would be one thing. And second is exposing all the senior people to different technology partners and vendors. We do it often. We had a trip to the US. We will do one this year where the CEOs meet directly, the tech CEOs, the tech senior people, and get an understanding, right? So there is no need for, in my views, to someone to say a technology you go on. No, we take. In fact, a lot of our deals we involve our CFOs in the last year, which now the tech companies are a bit they're not very comfortable, right? Because they're so used to dealing with CIOs, CTOs. Now I'm saying that final price, you go to my CFO.
But that's a very good idea. Excellent idea to get business people,
to take decisions.
finance people,
Absolutely.
to meet the tech guys.
Yeah. And
because
audit.
then they can understand the tech requirements
Absolutely.
also.
Absolutely. And in audit, our chief audit officer, he spends enormous amount of time with tech, right? Because his view is that how do I run everything? So now I also, when solution is implemented, they also understand the nuances of it, right? Because when a solution, then the guy says, oh, you need to upgrade. Oh, then why an upgrade? Then they realized why an upgrade for the entire universe is so difficult.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that is something which I think as Aditya Birla Capital, we are very, very passionate about. And I think, and execution, I think I will go back to that. I think that is one thing. Now you get all these things, right? But your project is delayed. Then there is no fun.
Yeah.
So I think, that mentality of that you need to get whatever you want, but execute on time so that, we can move on, I think is also helping us.
No, that's fantastic advice for both the business leaders and for the CIOs and CTOs. I'm so happy that you were able to tell us all these exciting stuff, especially to how to make a financial services company keep the character of trust,
Yes.
but still have a agility of fintech.
Absolutely.
I think that's a balance, a very tough trapeze artist balancing act.
Because I feel, might be for the fintechs to become banks is far more difficult.
Yeah.
Than banks or financial service to become fintechs. Because look, ultimately capital is available. Right?
Yes.
We don't need to worry for if someone needs to do a 4-5 crore project, it is not so difficult. Right? You still write a justification, put it up. But if you're a startup, first you need to raise that money for doing it, which is far more difficult. So I understand that part of it. And then how do we use tools? I think tooling is something which is very, very important. Just like on a daily basis, we use a calendar, we use location. Now, like that for a corporate, I think tool becomes very, very critical. That's why for us, any project management, architecture tools are very, very fundamental in the way we work. Then we'll ensure that it is monitored and then delivered.
Ramesh, delighted to talk to you. I think your advice has been superlative for business managers as well as young CIOs who would like to follow your footsteps. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. It's just an absolute pleasure to talk with you.